All right. Hello and welcome to a Next Level Mastermind exclusive presentation. I'm your host, Adam Carswell, joined by my two co-hosts today, Fletcher Wheaton, who's the founder of Cabo Key. I said this in, I think, the last Next Level Mastermind presentation that we did, but Cabo Key is the #1 real estate investment firm in Cabo, Mexico. That's at least our claim to fame, our marketing. I'm sure if Fletcher's not there yet, he's going to fill those shoes because he's just amazing. And then also we have Yousef AlAbed, who is a good friend of mine here in St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada, one of our top performing students from Memorial University. And he's actually in the middle of midterms right now, and he's still making a sacrifice to come here and share his wisdom, share his knowledge, and most importantly, ask the questions that he has as a college student for individuals ask the questions from individuals like Fletcher and myself. So again, happy that you guys are here with us live today. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to invest it here with us. We promise you're going to get a ton of value and just fun out of our time here today. So make sure if you are tuned in here live with us right now, in the chat box, in the comments, let's get it fired up. Let's get everybody warmed up a little bit. Go ahead and comment in there your name, where you're from, what you're excited to learn about today, to talk about. Just open up those floodgates. And then also, if you're joining us on the replay, be sure to subscribe and also check out the show notes for links connected to today's message. And lastly, if you're tuned in on the Dream Chasers platform, be sure to share, rate, and subscribe there as well. And don't forget, there's a link to the video replay in that Dream Chasers platform show notes section as well. So before we continue to break the ice here, I'm going to pause and just flip it over to our co-hosts today. First, Yousef, who I mentioned is here in St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada with me. Yousef, how are you doing today, my friend? Give us a little update on what your Saturday is like.
Hey folks, Yousef here. St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada. I'm up here in a cabin in rural, Newfoundland. Very, very far away. Yeah, my reception could go off. It's a bit tacky far away, but very, very fun having you all here.
All right, and then Fletcher, you're in a very warm part of the world, and I kind of wish I was there right now. So how's everything going in Cabo?
Adam, everything's going well, and I'm just happy to get everybody together, and hopefully we can drop a little knowledge today.
Definitely going to drop a little knowledge. Guys, I'm excited. We have a fantastic presentation for you. And the title of today's presentation is How to Get Started in Commercial Real Estate for Young Professionals. I know that, looking back on it, Fletcher can agree with me. There's so many things that we kind of feel like we wish we knew, or we learned along the way that could have helped us tremendously if we were 21, 22, 23 again, or just whatever that young professional qualification is to you in your world. These are all the golden nuggets, the secrets, the things that we've found, and more importantly, that Fletcher has found, to put together a nice presentation for you. So that way we can help everyone here tuned in take their lives to, as we like to say, the next level. So ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, we have a phenomenal presentation coming your way right now from Fletcher Wheaton. Get your notepads ready, get ready to learn, and most importantly, get ready to hear some of the unknown fundamentals that exist at the entry level of commercial real estate that can kind of help you, flip that switch and get to where you want to go quicker than you probably thought you could. So anyways, Fletcher. Oh, and one more thing, I do have to give a shout out to Yousef, because he might not speak a whole lot with us here today, but if it wasn't for Yousef's questions and really being our guinea pig as the young professional for putting this presentation together, we wouldn't have what we have. So Yousef, thank you for being so inquisitive along the way. Now I'll flip it over to Fletcher. And guys, remember, along with this presentation, don't be afraid to use that chat box. Go ahead and put your questions in there, because we will get to a Q&A at the end of Fletcher's presentation. Fletcher Wheaton, the mic is yours.
Roger that. Thank you, Adam. Let me go ahead and share the screen. Can everybody see that? Adam?
Yep, we can see it. Go ahead and fire it up.
Oh, okay. So this presentation really came about. Adam's been on the webinar kick, and Yousef just really wanted to get a little bit more knowledge on what exactly was commercial real estate. So we decided to do the presentation on starting out in commercial real estate. And as Adam said, I would have liked to known a lot of this information when I was graduating. So just really, where are we going to start? When we reached out for questions for young professionals and college students, the first thing that popped up, what exactly is commercial real estate? So what is the difference between residential and commercial? And a lot of people think these barriers to entry to get it on commercial real estate are really high, like buying a skyscraper or something like that. It's really not so like that. So the first thing I want to bring up is personal use versus investment, right? Residential real estate is generally going to be like the houses that you're living in. Commercial real estate is going to be more of an investment. Economies of scale, right? So jumping into the third bullet point, those are kind of the same thing here. Commercial deals are generally going to be a lot bigger, right? So let's say you're somebody who is buying single family residential houses to rent out. It's you kind of got to reinvent the wheel, go get another mortgage, essentially, buy that house and do it again. Whereas commercial real estate, you can scale up on a massive scale, right? You can get some of these multifamily properties, 500 units, and really you're kind of pooling together resources, money, expertise, and things like that. So your commercial deals, and I'm not going to say you don't have residential housing that's really expensive, but your commercial deals are going to be a lot bigger. And then really multiple investors, right? So, and that kind of jumps into the next one. The phrase that if you were interested in getting into commercial real estate, that I would check out further after this presentation would be a syndication, right? And that's really where you have the ability to pool resources and specifically money, so if you're buying a 300 unit multifamily property as an investment, it's not like you're buying that yourself, right? You're going to use, it's generally, you're going to have your general partners. You might have 2 or 3 of them. And then you're going to bring on your limited partners, which generally are going to be providing the investment monies, right? And you're going to use your expertise to kind of execute on these deals. And later in the presentation, we're going to get into the different types of asset classes that are really in fashion right now. Another thing too is generally it's a lot easier to exit residential, and you got to take that with a grain of salt. Like let's say right now you're going to buy in a syndication a 300 unit multifamily. It's not like the guy walking down the street is going to be able to buy that, right? You've generally eliminated a large portion of the population. You've got people like Grant Cardone that admit their exit strategy is really going to these large firms like BlackRock, JP Morgan, institutional type money. Once you jump up to these larger projects, generally, for example, like a self-storage project, it's not like you're going to sell that to the guy down the street, whereas your house up for sale, everybody's kind of familiar with that process, right? Put a sign there, a realtor, and generally, if people like the house, they can buy it, right? So it's going to be a lot easier to exit out of residential. I like this definition, 5 or more units. A lot of people, Yousef was found this interesting too. A lot of people think, you'd be buying a skyscraper over here. But a lot of commercial real estate right now, multifamily is, you're getting into multifamily. So if you have like one building with 4 units in it, that's still going to be essentially single family resident, or not single family, but it's going to be residential real estate. Once you jump up to 5 or more units, so let's say you're buying a 40 unit or a 20 unit apartment complex, right? That would be considered commercial real estate. And then I don't want to jump into this one too much, but active versus passive. I got into the game really buying duplexes and triplexes with family, and that was very active. We were managing these, and it's not for the faint of heart. A lot of people think when you buy a place to rent it out, you just get this mailbox money. Well, that can be the case as a passive investor, right? So if you invest in a syndication, right, a lot of people call that mailbox money, where you're going to get, whatever that is, a quarterly check, a monthly check, whatever the syndicators decide it to be. So residential tends to be active. If you scale it up, you can actually have management on that. Whereas investing in a syndication, really, you can own commercial real estate passively. And then looking out on, so let's say Aaron or Yousef, the younger guys in the room, you're looking out, well, where do I begin? You're walking down New York City and you're looking at these skyscrapers. Oh my God, how is this? It's really not the case. There's a lot of different things you can do essentially right now, right? Your network is your net worth, right? And this is something that I wish I had started when I was you guys' age. You can certainly reach out to people right now, grow your network. If you're interested in the industry, anybody who's successful will probably open you with welcome arms and kind of help you out. So I would definitely start trying to grow your network. That is, Adam knows this probably more than anybody. This is a relationship game. And once you get on to bigger properties, you're going to have multiple people. So building those relationships right now is a great way to start. And really, how do you do that? A lot of this, you could do social media, right? Next Level Mastermind, we're all pretty big on LinkedIn. I think that is a solid one, but that can be anything, whatever your cup of tea is, right? If that's Instagram, if that's TikTok, whatever you're doing, right? Creating content. This is, as a younger guy, I would be scared to do this because I would thought that everybody would say I'm not an expert, right? But creating content that you can put on these social media platforms or an email list would be a great way to start, right? 5 reasons to invest in commercial real estate, or 5 reasons to invest in Philadelphia, right? Podcasting. I mean, Adam can really talk about the power of the podcast, right? You're just going to grow your network massively that way. Webinars like we're doing right now. I mean, our last webinar is performing really well on YouTube right now. I'm starting to get into video. I really like video. Shaw on his call has really kind of helped me do that. And the power of video is, I think, going to be very powerful going forward. Another thing I would add to this is articles, like a blog. And, this is something that I do as well. I generally write about 1 or 2 articles a month. I like this one too. If you're starting out, the law of the first deal. Once you've done your first deal, you have the confidence to do another one. The brokers know you. If you keep looking for deals and you're not doing them, you're going to be known as like the person, hey, you're kind of wasting these people's times. And then furthermore, once you have a deal, you have a track record that you can point to, right? That you can say, hey, look, I did this deal. It's turned out this way. My investors are very happy. You can talk to them. And really, once you get that momentum going, I've seen a lot of people start and it's kind of like they scale up very quickly. The email list. This is one that me and Adam have been going back and forth on. This is a big one. I'm currently growing my email list. And, let's say if you're a podcaster, once you do a podcast, you boom, send it out on the email list. Webinar, send it out on the email list. Video, written article. You can start, letting these people stay relevant in their mind, right? And this is a good way to grow your influence. Friends and family money is a very important one. A lot of people, when they're first starting out, I would be a great example of that. Using family money to get off the ground, right? And really the first deal I told you guys I was doing like duplexes and triplexes, which it's not really commercial, right? But that's really what got me into commercial real estate at the end of the day. And without, the down payments from family and friends, that wouldn't have happened. So if you have a network within the family, that is a great place to start. House hacking and sweat equity. These are 2 ones for, smaller like residential, but this is what I did in one of the places that we first owned. It was a duplex. It was two bedrooms, and I lived in 1 bedroom and I rented out the 3 others. Now, I don't think my wife would be too happy about doing that these days, but it's a great way to start out when you are younger. And then sweat equity, doing all the rehab work yourself, right? And you're paying yourself on the back end. When you go to exit the property, when you sell it, you will realize the gains from all that hard work and labor. I couldn't talk without Sam Zell, or commercial real estate, without mentioning Sam Zell. To me, I've told this to Adam. Sam Zell was in commercial real estate when commercial real estate wasn't cool. Now you look around, you get on LinkedIn, man, everybody's in commercial real estate. It's like the thing to be investing in right now. Sam Zell, I would call him the godfather of commercial real estate. I really like this quote he has: when everyone is going left, look right. And he's been able to really navigate bubbles in the real estate market cycle very well. In fact, his nickname is the Grave Dancer. One of his deals, he bought, I think it was an apartment complex, and he basically said he was raising the corpses. It's like this going out of bankruptcy. So he was buying these apartment buildings for pennies on the dollar, 30 cents on the dollar, buying these at discounts. And then when no one else wanted them, right, he was going left when everybody else was going right. And I really like this book, Am I Being Too Subtle? And the reason that I included this was it kind of brings you on his journey from graduating from University of Michigan Law School, and which, being an attorney, has served him very well in commercial real estate. And going out, doing his first deal, the complexities of some of the deals he's done, and really how he's ascended to being worth $6 billion, which is basically, I wouldn't say 100% commercial real estate, but a large majority of that is coming from investments in commercial real estate. All right, you can't really talk about commercial real estate without talking about the cap rate. So I know Derek's on this call. He could probably run circles around me as far as financial analysis, but this is a great way to start. What is the cap rate? Well, it's the most widely used valuation metric in commercial real estate, okay? It's going to be the net operating income divided by the purchase price. So how much money let's say it's an apartment building, is bringing in after expenses, right, after maintenance, after all this, over the purchase price. Now, the purchase price, obviously, if you're buying a rundown place and then you're going to invest monies into that to rehab it and renovate it, that would be in the denominator right here as well. And the reason I included this, passive investors, this is going to be the first thing they ask, hey, what's the cap rate on that? Oh, I'm buying an apartment building. Do you want to invest? Well, what's the cap rate? And I have to include this. If you ask 6 different people the cap rate, you might get 6 different answers. And obviously, gentlemen, and ladies and gentlemen, there's different ways to structure deals, right? But I do find a lot of abuse in the cap rate. And I think a lot of people would admit that while there are different ways to structure deals, people tend to embellish and elaborate what a property will be performing. Asset classes. So here is diving into the different types of commercial real estate you can be investing in. Okay, so here you have multifamily, right?
I just want to hop in here too and just say this is a really important slide, because I think what Fletcher's going to get into here, guys, is we don't realize just how diverse the term commercial real estate is. I think a lot of us think it's just skyscrapers. It's more than that. So Fletcher, go ahead, brother.
Oh yeah. So here, you're looking like you got a really nice brand new, like Class A multifamily. Let's call this 350 units. There's Yousef and his girl are up here drinking a cup of wine, right? No, but this multifamily is really in fashion right now. Very strong performance, that really goes market by market, but this is a very hot asset class right now. Over here, you have mobile home parks, which is another hot asset class. Mobile home parks, is very hard to get permitting for mobile home parks. So you've got supply constraints, right? Because it's not like you can buy a lot and then put a mobile home park on. A lot of municipalities won't let you do that. And why this is so attractive right now is that generally you're going to be paying a lot less rent in these than you would in this multifamily over here. So this really caters to a large percentage of the population in the United States right now. So that's another hot asset class. Over here, in one of the most staged photos of all time, you have senior living, right? You got the doctor right here, the nurse taking care of the seniors. And, you hear it a lot, you might have 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day. So this is a very large asset class, another really hot asset class too. These can get really high expense ratios, right? Where like maybe 70% of the money coming in will be spent. Some of these places can get really nice. You're serving 3 meals a day. You might have healthcare and things like that. Self-storage is another hot one. I don't know too much about self-storage. One of my friends who's a really smart guy, I know that's all he does is self-storage. So self-storage is another really strong and hot asset class at the moment. Right here, you've got office, and COVID has obviously changed the game on that one, right? I actually remain bullish on office. I don't think offices are going anywhere. I think you'll probably have, more people less people per square foot in the office, but I think the office is not going to go away. There's going to be a lot of industries that you can do remotely, but I think the office is another asset class that's worth looking at right now. And then over here, you've got your fulfillment centers, right? So you've got the rise of Amazon, and here's another thing that COVID's kind of expedited, right? So this is another, what I would call like light industrial, right? So investing in warehouses basically that become fulfillment centers, right? So you can get your Amazon Prime packages in 2 days.
And there's really not a lot of public information out there on investing in industrial, especially just in regards to stats and data. So I'm going to do a quick plug here to someone we have thankfully on the call, guys. Go through the Dream Chasers archive, or just go ahead and Google, type in Dream Chasers Industrial Real Estate. You'll see a 5 or 6 episode series between Shaw and I on industrial. Back over to you, Fletcher.
Definitely worth checking out. Matter of fact, Shaw could probably jump on this and finish this, but that's obviously a very strong asset class right now with Amazon, right? Then over here at the bottom, you have like heavy industrial, right? This makes me think of like a port facility, right? You might have cranes, you might have bobcats, forklifts, and this is definitely your heavier type industrial. And then over here, you've got your travel sector, and this is, for me, this is going to be like the most risky, and I'm invested into a hotel deal, which right now is obviously a hard time, and a lot of people, you start talking about the difference between residential. A lot of people are buying places to rent out an Airbnb, right? And for obvious reasons, everybody knows that would be maybe 1 night, 2 night, 3 night stays, right? And for that reason, I would call that a lot riskier, right? Whereas you go up here to these offices, Class A office space generally is going to be like on a 5-year lease, right? Or a 3-year lease, where this could be 1 night, right? So for me, that's a lot trickier, a lot more risk. And ones that I haven't really talked about, malls, right? That's another one where, hey, what's going on with that in COVID? And then cold storage is another large asset class, right? So these are all different asset classes that are options for you to be investing in right now. I like this slide because, this is 3 different articles from 2020. This would be New York Times, and then these 2 would be Bloomberg articles. And you have these big players. I got it titled Institutional Goes Residential, right? So you have Brookfield Asset Management, you got JP Morgan, all buying single family homes to rent out, right? So I've heard some crazy statistics, like over half the single family homes in the United States are investment properties, right? So that kind of blurs with that first slide, right? What's the difference between residential and commercial, right? But you have a lot of people buying single family residential as investment properties right now. So I think that garners attention going forward. And then really, you cannot talk about real estate right now without talking about interest rates, okay? So we look about right here in 1983, okay? So basically, if you're like 36 or younger, it's safe to say that interest rates have generally been falling your entire life, okay? And think about this, guys, a 30-year mortgage in the early 80s would have cost you around 18%. And then we go on to today, that's down around 3%. That is just crazy when you think about it. And I'm not going to get too much into interest rates, but for a lot of reasons right now, the lowering the cost to borrow money has really jacked up the prices of a lot of assets. So right now, I think we're at a point where people are using this. A lot of people are calling it free money almost, right? You're borrowing at really inexpensive rates. And then that allows people to buy other things, and it kind of accelerates the process. So you're starting to see asset prices in real estate rise because of this. And that obviously has other ramifications on other parts of the economy, but I just wanted to point out that slide. You know, it's on a general downward trend for, you know, basically our entire lives. I like this slide, guys, because, you know, here you might have a little disruption, right? Is Netflix overtaking Hollywood? I'm not really, you know, saying I'm an expert on this, but what I am saying is that, let's say, generally, if I'm looking to raise money for a deal, I'm going to be looking to the demographic like my father, the baby boomers, right? Because they're going to have the money, right? And then if you're graduating school, you might not have the money. But the point is, if you have these ideas, and I would say somebody graduating school or in business school would have a lot better insight into certain things, like disruption within Netflix or Hollywood, things like that, than somebody like the baby boomers would, right? So if you have any ideas of things that you would want to invest in or trends that you're following, you know, you can actually have these projects, right? And you can raise the money from these people that do have the money. And that's where I think as a younger person, you have a huge advantage over understanding a lot of these industries that maybe somebody else who can't really, they might know how to send an email, but don't know really how to operate a computer, right? A lot of these people still have a ton of money, right? And the whole point is that you have very, very valuable insights due to your age, right? And last, I really wanted to talk about stocks versus real estate, okay? When I graduated school, I have a stock background. You know, my family was in Wall Street. I was taught that basically when I got out, I was going to invest in the 401k, you know, buy Microsoft, diversify the portfolio, et cetera, et cetera. Now, you know, in 2003, due to law changes, you know, this is where the rise of the syndication has come in, where it's been a lot easier to invest in these, for example, multifamily apartment building type things, right? So what are some of the big differences? Well, liquidity would be the first thing, right? Let's say I have Netflix stock, okay? If for whatever reason I wanted to have, you know, let's say something came up and I wanted to sell my Netflix stock, well, I could have that in cash in 3 days, right? Whereas, let's say I'm invested in a self-storage facility, well, that's not going to work like that, right? You know, best case scenario, I can find somebody to buy my position, but then generally I might even be taking a haircut on that, you know? So stocks are way more liquid than real estate. Now, is that going to change? I think in the future that will, but for right now, stocks are way more liquid than real estate. Leverage. Now, look, you can buy stocks on leverage. That is certainly the case with, especially with a lot of these ETFs. But generally, most people are buying stock, you know, outright, whereas real estate by definition is levered, right? A lot of people, when they're buying a home or if they're raising money for a deal, they might be raising 30%, 50% of the capital and then borrowing the rest from the bank. So when you're buying real estate, you know, I do see a lot of some deals where people are buying it outright, but generally you're going to have some form of leverage, right? Where in stocks, it's usually not the case. And for me, this is a big one too, you know, public markets versus private equity. Your stocks are going to be the public markets and real estate is going to be more like the private equity. And I think this is important because public markets have to, for example, Netflix, let's say Tesla, all these stocks, right? Microsoft, they have to report quarterly, right? And this stays in, you know, it's not like they can just erase that. You know, this is all public information. You go back and see ExxonMobil's earnings in 1980, right? And what their dividend was. So it's very strict as far as the reporting requirements, whereas private equity is a little bit more relaxed on that. And this is where, you know, if I'm investing in a real estate deal, I'm going to vet out the people that I'm dealing with. You know, it's pretty easy to vet out a stock, right? You have all this public information, but these private deals, private equity deals, real estate deals, you know, how do you avoid, you know, investing in a bad one, right? And, you know, my advice would be, you know, Adam works with some solid people. You know, I would invest with very reputable people that have solid track records, right? And I'm not going to say there's more abuse in private equity because there's certainly a lot of scandals in public stocks as well. You can look at places like Enron and things like that. But I think you really got to be careful when you're investing in a real estate deal for that reason, for the reporting requirements. REITs, that's real estate investment trust. That's like a combination of the two, right? So it's generally going to be more liquid, right? And that brings me to really the last point is risk versus return. You know, for this liquidity, if this stock is paying me, let's say I got dividends paying me 2.5%, but right, I can have my money tomorrow. This real estate, I can't have my money tomorrow. So for that, you're going to have to compensate me for that risk. So if I'm getting maybe a 2.5% return on this stock, I might have to get maybe a 4%, 4.5% on this illiquid investment to make it sense, you know, to make it make sense for me to invest in it, right? So generally the risk versus return in stocks versus private equity, and obviously you take that with a grain of salt. I think there's a lot of speculation going on in both markets right now, but you can look at a lot of stocks, look at like Tesla right now. It's, you know, these stocks that are jumping 5-10% in a day. So I'm not going to say that there's not risk in that regard as well. And then really last, guys, you know, education sources. This isn't something you get down and you're good, right? The market is constantly changing. Reading books, things like that. Play the long game, right? Real estate is not a get rich quick scheme. And with that, I'll kind of hand it over to Adam. And Adam, if you have any books, podcasts, and you know, want to get into networking, mentors, and you know, before I do hand it over to him, I want to talk about, guys, if you are interested in market cycles, you know, specifically real estate market cycles, we did a webinar last month, and Adam can link to that. But just staying up to date and whatever it is that you're interested in, you know, staying up to date on that. Would you like to add anything to that, Adam?
I just got to say, fantastic presentation. I think looking back, we joked about this, but pretty much every slide that you just delivered, I think we could go back and do a presentation just on each slide. There's that much information buried within what we covered today. Thank you, Fletcher. And then, yeah, guys, you know, books, podcasts, as you know, I love the networking component of this industry, and that's a huge part right there on the education sources page here on the presentation that Fletcher has. One thing that came to mind for me too here is, as I see mentor there, one way that you can kind of start, like once you get into real estate, you want to start strategically thinking about, okay, how do I want to diversify my investments? How do I want to diversify my energy into this industry? And one really easy way to get started thinking of that mindset of how do I want to diversify is through mentorship. So I do think that you would be holding yourself back if you only had one real estate mentor. I look kind of at my own life right now, for example, and I'd say that I probably have somewhere between 3 to 4 mentors. And that's over the years of like getting to know people and kind of deciding, okay, I'm going to commit to this person. Because there's a lot of information out there too. You could be listening to 100 podcasts from 100 different mentors and just be spinning yourself around in circles. So kind of try to find like 2, 3, 4 voices that you resonate with and stick to them. That's a good fundamental way to start diversifying your mind. So then when you're ready to diversify other parts of life, you're ready. I do want to kind of just hurry up and get to the Q&A though, because I know we got about 10 minutes left here. And I'm sure with the international group that we have here, we're all around the world today, which is awesome. I saw Malaysia come through. That's fantastic. Just want to open up the floor for anyone that might have some questions, follow-up questions for Fletcher, myself, or Yousef. I really want to take advantage of the time we have together. So I'll pause now. And yeah, if any of our attendees would like to unmute and ask a question, please do.
Hey folks, Fletcher, just gotta say, amazing presentation. That's one. 2, I really agree with you.
Is he coming through?
On the cycle, the trust is talking in that space, in that office, and that's why I think the office is not something that would go away.
Yeah, you kind of broke up there, Yousef, but it's funny, and I think I'm going to hold myself a little bit guilty of this too. It's kind of like right when COVID hit, the world was changing, right? And I think the world is changing. But all of a sudden, it was like, these mass movements out of New York City where you've got this vertical living and you're living in a 800-foot, square foot apartment right on top of each other. Why would you be living there when you're paying, $3,200 in rent, when you could be moving somewhere like Cabo, right? But also with that, you had everybody working from home, right, because of COVID. But I think now you're seeing a lot of these companies saying they've seen a decrease in efficiency, right? I think you can go to Netflix, right? Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, has basically said that he does not like the remote working, right? And he sees kind of a hybrid system where it might be maybe 4 days in the office, 1 day at the house instead of 5 days at the office, right? And then, another webinar that Adam did with Adam Gower, that's what I really was saying. I think he was saying that he sees the office kind of almost being rented out for the same amount. You're just going to have less people per square foot, but you're going to require larger spaces per person. And going back to that too, a lot of these, like these Class A office buildings, they're rented out for 5 years, right? So let's say you signed a lease 2 years ago, it's not like you're really backing out of that lease right now. So office space is really tricky. It's not anything I'm invested in, but I don't see it going away. But I was definitely guilty of jumping on the bandwagon off the get-go and saying like, oh, office is done, right? Mainly that might be because I don't want to go to the office, right? I was kind of liking the work from home movement.
Absolutely. And another thing that comes to mind here too, I know a good friend of ours, guys, Ben Kogut. Go ahead and look him up. He's doing some pretty good research in suburban office right now.
Fletcher, Adam, thanks for putting this together today. I've really enjoyed just the overview that y'all have provided. I really have a lot of sympathy for what you spoke about regarding office, and I think it speaks to the concept of linkage. As technology progresses, as the individual, the entity is able to achieve more by themselves through the utilization of just everything that's becoming available to them, I see the fundamental way that we interact with this society changing. And I think one thing that COVID did was fundamentally show that you can do a lot remotely, but there are nonetheless very tangible benefits from meeting in a team. And so one thing that I would say is I see the suburban environment, the suburban sprawl continuing. And it's because while you'll have potentially less people per square foot, maybe you have, let's say like at Altus Group, we have an entire floor. Well, now we might just have one department per day come in and utilize a smaller footprint while still having that effective team management that you need. Would you speak a little bit more to how you see the underlying trends change while, obviously still needing office that you spoke about?
Yeah, Derek, I mean, you touched on a lot there. I do agree that I think we were starting to see maybe a little bit of a suburban movement before, when you're talking about kind of getting out of the cities and whatnot. And, there's a lot of changes going on in the country too when you talk about demographics. I think people are having less children. You can maybe talk about like the expense of that. I think new housing is going to be less square footed. You have like, I think of like Dallas, I think of McMansions, you have like these just urban sprawl neighborhoods with these like 3,000 square foot houses. I don't think you necessarily need that, right? I look at me and a lot of my friends and it's kind of like, hey, one or two kids and that might be it, right? You don't need the 5-bedroom house anymore. But to the office, yeah, I agree. I think you got to have the culture to a certain extent, right? And Derek, I'll admit I was able to work remotely, and it almost got to the point one day I remember where it was like 9:30, and I was like had it all set up, had everything, and then I was like, well, I looked around and was like, well, the boss isn't really here to tell me that I need to be doing this, so my productivity levels definitely fell off. So I think another guy to look at this, is Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan. He is like very anti the work from home movement and he'll talk specifically just to productivity. So I think you've got to find a medium right here, right? I think a lot of people are finding out that they can work from home, and a lot of people maybe want to work from home, but I think a lot of people are saying, hey, my boss might be saying, look, you're not doing as much work as you were before, and I'm paying you the same amount. Maybe that has to do with your productivity, and you're not there anymore. I know a guy who he owned a car dealership, and he always told me you would put his desk out in the middle of the car dealership, and when he did that, as opposed to having his office in the back, everybody was doing a lot more work because they saw him, and everywhere they were, they knew he could see them, right? So I think that kind of goes to it as well. I kind of went on there, Derek, but I hope that kind of answered a little bit.
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of great points.
All right.
Shirab, were you about to jump on?
Hello.
Hey,
Shirab.
Hey, really great to join you guys today. This was a great presentation. Thank you, Fletcher. That's some really great points. You really cleared my definition of what a syndication was, at least in my own mind. And really the breakdown of the asset classes was quite helpful. And mostly I really like that point you made about diversifying as a young individual, how you actually have your own set of skills that maybe a generation beyond you may not possess, and how you could leverage that in commercial real estate. I thought all of that was really valuable info. So I thank you for that. I just wanted to maybe just get a head start on the self-storage units, because I see a lot of self-storage units in the area I'm in, and you mentioned you have a friend that can connect you along those lines, but I'm not entirely sure of what the process of procuring self-storage units may be.
Yeah, no. So, like I said, self-storage is not something I know a ton about, but I know self-storage was really, it was something that, I think in Europe, it was very large, and it's kind of come over to the United States, and now it's getting bigger and bigger. My friend, actually, he builds them. And the thing about that too is look, if you're building apartment buildings, you got to worry about AC duct ventilations, and you do have that in self-storage, you have cooling, right? But you got to worry about the water, you got to worry about the gas going to the kitchen, you got to do this. So these self-storage facilities are, a lot easier and a lot quicker to go up than, let's say, something like an apartment building. And they're a lot cheaper to construct in that sense as well, right? You're not worried necessarily about people running out in case of a fire in the middle of the night, right? So self-storage, I think, it's a well-performing asset class. And I think, you got to go by markets. I know a guy that had self-storage in Boone, North Carolina, where App State was located. And in the summertime, he was, dancing around because all the college kids would move all their stuff into self-storage. So, you think about where I am in Cabo, we have a peak season, for the hotels, right? So they really like it in the winter season because that's the peak season when all the snowbirds are coming down and whatnot. So I think it really depends on the market, right? So if you're next to a college town, I think the summer will be really big, and things like this. Another thing too with self-storage is I know the same guy, he's getting out of self-storage in Texas because according to him, a lot of people are building and it's oversaturating the market. And for that reason, he says he's getting out of self-storage within his markets. I know one's on College Station at in Texas. And Shirab, if you wanted to find out more about that, I can certainly introduce you to my friend Robbie.
Absolutely, that was a great explanation. I just saw the follow-ups in the chat, so I'll be sure to check in.
And I see Shaw coming in with a question about key demographic metrics. And this is, that's a pretty open-ended question. And I think there's a lot of stuff you can go on, but the first thing that's coming up to me is the baby boomers. So you have a lot of, like I said, you have these people that have like my parents have like a 5-bedroom house, and it's almost like they don't need that, but if you have younger generation, the younger generation not having, 3 kids where you necessarily need to buy that house, how does that really change? So I think this new house construction, is that going to be smaller houses? If you were averaging, new house construction in an area that's 2,400 square feet, like, is that now going to average 2,200 square feet? I think these are things that you got to look at. And then other things with demographics, I mean, you got to look at it, right? The baby boomers, that's a big one right now, so as these people are like, are they gonna live in that house until they pass away? Are they gonna go to senior living? Are people gonna buy those houses? Are, like, the houses that younger people are looking at gonna be smaller? Do people want to live in the cities now versus, because I think, when I graduated school in 2008, it was like, hey man, why would you not want to go live in one of these cool cities like New Orleans, Nashville, New York, where you just got a ton of young people, right? And it's a great dating scene and things like that, right? Or is that going to be like suburban now with COVID, or did the cities get too expensive and things like that? So I think you got a lot, and this is really, Sharab, back to what I'm saying. I think, people like you and Yousef could answer that question a hell of a lot better than a baby boomer could, because they probably don't even really care. They're more worried about downsizing or moving to a warmer area or whatnot.
Derek, I see you're unmuted. Did you have another question? We're going to close it up here soon.
I did. One thing, maybe not so much as in a question, but just a statement to add a little bit of value, is when you're first getting started in professional commercial real estate, not being afraid to think more long term. One thing that I've really had a lot of benefit from after joining the CFC mentor program was my ability to use that as a catalyst to join a global consulting firm. And so as a part of that, and really surrounding myself with the right mentors and surrounding myself with the right group of people moving forward, I'm in a place today where I value over $4 billion in commercial real estate on a quarterly basis. And it's been phenomenal experience. It's allowed me to see best practices amongst institutional investors, amongst investment firms, amongst valuation professionals. And it's really given me access to information that I want to share forward. And so I also wanted to plug that Adam, Shaw, and I will be putting together another webinar coming up soon, where we're going to teach people how to go through and construct a financial model for, how you would model $100 million real estate assets. And it really is something that, when you understand the theoretics of how to model, you can apply it for any asset class.
Thank you. That's a huge value add, guys, and a great segue, as Derek mentioned, to that webinar, which is coming up. We're still in the planning phases, but make sure you stay plugged into anyone here on the call today, myself, Fletcher, Derek, any next level mastermind. I'm sure if you want to attend that webinar, you can reach out to one of us and we'll get you connected. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, but that's going to be kind of like a fundamental webinar that we do. So again, it's something where someone who hardly knows anything about real estate could add a ton of value to their repertoire, and then take that and be like, hey,
exactly,
XYZ company, look what I can do.
Exactly. We're really going to start at the basics of finance, really understanding ratio analysis. We talk about capitalization rates as the NOI over the value. Well, what happens when you hold the numerator, the NOI, constant while the denominator changes? What happens if you do that reverse? What happens with proportional changes in that equation? And we're going to really start at that theoretical level and then move forward. And we're actually going to walk through building a complete model from the ground up.
I love that. And I want to throw my 2 cents in here too, guys, for all of my young professionals out there that kind of, you feel like you want to get into this industry and you're just like, man, I don't know how to crack in. 2 things I know that you can do right now that would just add a ton of value to, we'll use Fletcher as an example, Derek as an example. There's so many people that you might not see in commercial real estate right now that are establishing their name, their credibility, their firms, and they're within like the first 3 to 5 years of taking this serious. And yet they're still lacking someone to kind of run their social media platform for them. I know this, even for myself, I look at some things that I'm doing. Guys, if you know how to, you hear this all the time too, but if you know how to work Instagram, if you know how to work Facebook, if you know how to work LinkedIn, which is some of the most low-hanging fruit for social media out there, any of these platforms, Twitter. Sharab, you've seen for yourself from a recent conversation I know you had probably with your Twitter skills that could help out a company. Guys, even if you might not get paid for it up front, there's so many commercial real estate firms out there that just wish they could take their social media to the next level. And if you can make that clear to them, like, hey, I can do this, likely you're going to get someone to take you up on that. And my other thing was just do some research on building an email list. Look up on YouTube MailChimp or Active Campaign. Anything that you can do to learn how to build an email list is going to add value to a company if you reach out to them. So that's it for me. I think we had something else here.
Yeah, Aaron, if you want to unmute and fire away, man.
Sure. First off, I just want to say thank you guys. You really showed a lot of awesome stuff there that definitely helped me broaden my understanding of the real estate industry. Going off of some of the things you said, Adam pretty much just stole one of my questions, but if there's anything else you guys want to add about just sort of how to sort of build your platform and sort of draw more attention to like create more value so that you may attract more potential investors and things to sort of help you get off the ground.
Great question, Derek. Fletcher, you want to take this one?
Yeah. So actually, I want to add something, real quick before that. I almost want to say too, when I was starting out, I was doing like renting out duplexes and triplexes in the university area in New Orleans. And it was going so well that I actually figured that I could do this all on my own and that I didn't need anybody else. And that was a huge mistake, right? And that cost me a lot of years and I wouldn't say it cost me relationships, but I didn't think I needed to build the relationships. So Aaron, starting out with the relationships is huge. Now, for social media, first of all, I think, Aaron, for you specifically, LinkedIn is going to be something very powerful. And then I think when you kind of figure out what you're going to be interested in and kind of focus in and hone in on that, and then, like I said, if it's something, for example, I like to write articles. But as Shaw pointed out, I'm living in a very beautiful place. So it's like, hey man, video is just kind of like natural progression. So it was just like, it's a lot of experimentation, right? So, I think we were joking once, Shaw wrote like a great article that was like, I think it was like a 12-minute read when I clicked on it. And I was like, uh-oh, man, this one's, it might almost be like so solid, but most people, we have somebody in our mastermind that joked he wrote an ebook and he's like, man, I spent a lot of time on it, but he's like, I don't know if anybody actually like read it from the front to the end, right? So I think like these bite size, like what Adam's doing with like presentations like this, he might like record this and then chomp it up into bite size pieces. So, if you're looking to produce content, I would start following Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, straight up. That would be like my first thing to do because he loves the young professional, right? He's all about helping the younger guy. And it's literally people like you asking questions like that. So I would start following Gary V and I would try to go harder on LinkedIn, whether that's putting up article, connecting with people, asking questions and things like that. So Adam, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think sometimes I made a post about this yesterday on LinkedIn. We underestimate the value of just liking something. Even if you feel like you don't know what to do when you're on LinkedIn, you're afraid to interact, you're new to it. We've all kind of been there. One of the best ways to just simply get started, you have to be making a post every day. Just simply liking someone else's post or commenting on it too is enough for you to add value to their world. And then it also is normally a good look for you because for all my people who get LinkedIn notifications and emails out there, if someone in your network likes something or comments on something, they get notified of it too. So it's a double billboard opportunity from a marketing perspective for anyone who's involved. And again, Aaron, I know I've shared this with you before offline, and just look at, again, on LinkedIn, there's so many college students that are dead quiet. And so the 5 students that I know that aren't quiet stand out tremendously. And when it is their time to start networking and reaching out to industry professionals, they'll be able to have a body of work and look how connected I am. Look at these people that I know. So Aaron, you're on the right track. Anyone listening to this presentation right now, honestly, is on the right track. And just one other thing that came to mind. Hunter Thompson, one of my mentors, shared this recently, I think on one of his Instagram videos. But he's like, being in commercial real estate, being an entrepreneur in this industry, especially getting started, there might be a little phase that you go through where you feel kind of weird around your friends and family, meaning like, oh, who does Aaron Eiler think he is, this commercial real estate entrepreneur? Now he's only halfway through college. Like, who does he think he is? Like, you have to be prepared for maybe something like that to happen and just look beyond it, because I think with anything great, you kind of you might potentially get criticism up front. But I just want to encourage anyone, again, who's listening to this replay, don't be afraid to present yourself as the commercial real estate entrepreneur, because oftentimes, more than not, we grow into our shoes as long as we hold steady to it. So there you go.
Awesome. Thank you.
One more thing with that too. So definitely follow Gary Vee, but I like this is going back to the Adam Gower. You know, I've heard him say this. It's kind of like if a teacher is teaching a class, where you got like the 10% that are, you know, in the front of the room taking notes, you know, and you got the guys in the back shooting spitballs and whatnot. You know, you're not really worried about them so much, right? You're worried about those 10% in the front. And when you start building it, Aaron, and you start putting out content, you know, for example, I can put out like content and it doesn't bother me, but I put out a lot of stuff and it's like the crickets are chirping, right? And I'm like, well, maybe I need to change courses and do something like that. And then I'll put something else out and people are like, dude, that was a really cool video. I want to see more of that. And then like, they might ask me another question about what I put out. And I'll be like, man, that's another piece of content I can do. So when you start getting feedback from people, you get like automatic content ideas. And then, you know, I have like lists, you know, of like, hey, here's like 10 articles I want to do. And I, like I said, I like to write articles. So I'll write that article. And then with the motivation from Shaw, now I turn that into like a video, right? So, and then you can chop that up and do these like digestible pieces, as opposed to, you don't have to write a damn book, right?
Yeah. So, all right, everyone here tuned in right now is definitely a chapter ahead and ready to turn around and share this message with the world, especially those of you on the replay. Share this message, this information. We know it's good and we just love talking about it. But because we love talking about it so much, unfortunately, we do have to eventually hit stop. So we're getting close to it. I do want to just flip it over to Fletcher and Yousef real quick, I guess in that order. Fletcher and then Yousef, just share some parting words with our listeners and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I think I spoke enough this presentation, man. So I just want to thank you guys for coming out and, you know, reach out to, you know, Adam, or anybody in this group, you know, and really, you know, follow like Shaw, Derek, and Adam are doing that presentation on valuation. You know, I'm going to sign up. I'll be there. So looking forward to just keeping this conversation rolling. And with that, I'll hand it over to Yousef.
Yeah, I guess I'm very happy to see all of you here. Fletcher, Adam, great job presentation. Tons of value, tons and tons of value, to be honest. Yeah, I guess the main point for me is that, or I guess the main point I have for anybody who is in this presentation would be, start now and start with the smallest step, even if it seems trivial, whether it's reaching out to someone, you know, or figuring out, for example, how to start, or how much do you need to pay for a commercial license, or, you know, whatever it is that is needed.
All right. Thank you, Yousef. That's right, guys. Reach out. We highly encourage it. Our contact information is in the chat. And then also, of course, in the show notes, you can contact us there. So thank you again so much for joining us today, investing your time with us here at this Next Level Mastermind presentation, how to get started in commercial real estate for young professionals. I'm your host, joined by Adam Carswell, joined by our co-hosts, Fletcher Wheaton and Yousef AlAbed. Guys, remember, whatever platform you're listening to on right now, be sure to share, rate, and subscribe there. Spread the message, spread the love. Keep in touch with the Next Level Mastermind on LinkedIn. And remember, in all you think, say, and do, take it to the next level.